Does all this talk about a recession make you nervous? Are you concerned with how your organization is going to navigate the recession? And maybe what are some things that you could be doing to make sure you weather the storm and come out okay? If any of those things have been on your mind, then this is the video for you, and I want you to keep watching. So first I want to say, let me be clear. You cannot avoid being affected by the recession, right? And so I know there's like all of these articles and videos about how to navigate the recession, how to recession-proof your organization. And while the title might be a little clickbaity, it really is about what you can do to prepare, right? And then when it hits you or when your organization is being affected, like what do you need to lean into to make sure that you make it on the other side? And we're gonna go through a few of those things now. So the first thing I want you to consider is embracing cloud accounting tools and technology. And the reason why this is important is one, because it reduces costs, right? And we know when we hear recession, we're thinking about how can we preserve some of our cash, right? And so one, it's going to reduce costs, right? And it also is going to make sure that you improve efficiency. So if you have a team and it seems like things are redundant, things aren't being done on time, or like maybe some of your staff members kind of are overlapping with the work that they're doing, you need to be able to take stock or take inventory of your process, of who's doing what, and really comb through and make sure everyone's job is maximized, really everyone's role, right, is maximized, and how can you plug some of the gaps or some of the things that are like manual or redundant with the right technology app or software or tool. It is no secret that I don't even want to say we are moving to a digital first society. We're here, right? And there are a lot of organizations that felt a little shock when the pandemic happened, and we don't want that for you, right? And at this point, I think if you haven't embraced the cloud, if you haven't started thinking about how you can move away from some of the legacy tools and systems and software that you're using, then you will get left behind. Things will feel a little difficult and a little rocky. And so this is an area that you want to think about approaching and improving first. The second thing that you want to do is lean in to cash flow management. And I will say this is part of the services that we provide here, but I'll say I feel like it's underrated. And I honestly feel like we could even be doing a better job of highlighting how important it is and what clients need to be looking for when we're delivering these cash flow reports. But it's really important to keep an eye on your cash. So when we say keep an eye on your cash, here's what we mean, right? One, you want to make sure that you're reviewing your expenses consistently, right? So are there things or tools or software, bills, things that you're paying on, spending on that no longer serve the organization, that you're no longer using, that once was helpful, but it's not anymore, right? Like where can you cut? And I don't want to get too deep into cut, because a lot of times we know that usually, if you are spending, it's in some ways, right, an expense that the organization needs, right? And so, but there are some times where little things creep up, subscriptions and things like that, where it's like, is this something we really need? So you do want to do an audit of your expenses, but then also on a consistent basis, you want to be reviewing these things. And so, like for us, when we're sending and we're providing clients with these cash flow reports on a consistent basis, we're highlighting where is the money going. And if it's something that we seem to think that the client really isn't using or doesn't need, we're going to bring those things to their attention so we can say like, is this something that you need to be using? Can we X this expense out? Because if so, right, that means that it's cash being kept in the organization, right? And so that's important because we want to make sure that we have reserves. We want to make sure that we're only spending where it's necessary, because we just don't know what impact the recession may have on the organization. Another part of that is truly understanding your funding sources. And those of you that operate mainly using like government funds or reimbursement contracts need to listen a little closer. Because you have to spend first and then get your funds, it is imperative that your bookkeeping is top notch and that your reporting is A1, because you need to be able to wrap up your books timely so that you can invoice or provide the funding reports on a timely basis so that you can get your money quicker. A lot of the organizations that I've worked with that when they first came to us didn't have a process in place experienced delays in getting their funding because typically the bookkeeping was all chaotic and not streamlined. And so at the end of the month, it was taking so long to close the books that they were missing the deadlines of when they had to provide, the invoices or the funding reports to the funder, which meant you don't get paid as quickly, right? And we want to make sure whatever is owed to you, you get that money and you get it as quickly as possible. The last thing you want to do is focus on your organizational culture. It is no secret that you can be worked really hard in this space, right? Due to being short-staffed, due to, the work that your organization might be doing in the community. Like, this is really hard work and hard work. And so you have to make sure that you are tapping into the culture, that you are looking after your people, that you are encouraging breaks, you are encouraging them to take time off, but also that you are listening to them, that you are taking stock and inventory of the role that they're playing on the team. Do they have the tools that they need to do their jobs? When I think about when I worked internally, at the nonprofits that I worked with, a lot of the frustration just came from not being heard. A lot of it came from, delays on being able to do my job because I didn't have what I needed. And so sometimes it just can be really stressful. And so you want to make sure that you're checking in with your people, but you also want to make sure that when you're thinking about, team, and you're thinking about workload, and you're thinking about roles and responsibilities, that these are priorities for you so that your team doesn't feel like they're being stretched in a million and one ways, right? And now we know that because, a recession typically means like resources are super tight, that some people just may at times have a heavier workload than other times, right? But I think it's also knowing that, you care, right? And that you're thinking about how you can best support them so that, one, that is not something that's ongoing, but also it's something that you're trying to work through and help them navigate. And so you want to think about things like that. And lastly, what I'll say about that is really tapping into professional development, because when people can learn how to do their jobs better, right, that also helps take some of that stress and weight off of them. So I'm not gonna go crazy, y'all. I'm not gonna go crazy, but these are just 3 things that I really wanted to hammer in on as we are, well into, moving well into the new year, and so many outlets and news stories and blogs are coming out about the recession. And while it's not something that you want to just completely throw in the background, I think it's more so about doubling down on what is it that your organization does well? What is it that you're trying to accomplish this year? How are you operating? What does your operational infrastructure look like so that if you start to be impacted, if things start to feel shaky, you know where you need to point your resources, you know where you need to improve, and you're not doing it at the last minute, right? Because the pandemic caught many by surprise, right? That should not happen this year, right? We hear so many people talking about it, so we know that there's something that you can do about it, right? So just make sure that you lean in. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about here, please drop them in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.